Okay, how's it going? So we're just going to go ahead and give a demonstration on our Taborda Solutions / ThinkSmart program here with the onboarding Form 700 for the FPPC and also the 686. So this is our dashboard here. I'm going to get into more detail about the dashboard a little bit later. So we're just going to go ahead and get into our onboarding workflow first. Go ahead and start that. All right, so the idea behind the onboarding workflow is basically an HR representative or even the employee themselves would basically answer a series of questions, and then it would dynamically pick out which forms you would need to, would be required for you to fill in your onboarding process. So basically I'm just going to describe the screen right now so you know what you're looking at. So right here we have our communications tab. Basically any attachments that are attached while you're doing the form will be uploaded here, and then also communications for comments. So say you had a comment for an HR representative or the HR representative had a comment for you, that's basically where they would leave those. That way it can aid you as you're filling out the form. You'll see above here we'll have our tabs so you can switch between pages, and then of course our title of our workflow. And so I'm just going to go ahead and start going through and answering these questions. You'll see we have cash benefits, cash enrollment or benefits or both. And just because very specific forms adhere to all of these questions, we actually did partner with some highly trained HR specialists to carefully pick out these questions to make sure that we are basically selecting all forms if possible. And so as you can see here, we have a whole bunch of forms selected now underneath these questions, and if you're an HR representative and you feel that another form needs to be selected, you can go in and manually select things. Otherwise, you can just trust our questions as far as it picking the correct things for you. And so we're going to go ahead and hit next here, and you'll see a whole bunch of fields here. These are actually all of the fields that appear throughout the onboarding process that are repetitive. So instead of having you fill your first name, your last name, your middle name multiple times, we're just going to have you fill it out once here, and then it's going to auto-populate to all the forms that you're going to be required to fill. We also have really cool things like we have data validation for social security numbers, and then we also have required fields just to make sure that the correct questions are being answered regardless. I'm just going to go ahead and fill in that social security number and scroll down here so you'll see all the information is filled here. We're just going to go ahead and submit. Right. And so since I am the HR representative who just submitted a profile for my new employee that's going to be onboarding, I'm going to go ahead and get into the employee's email here, and we're going to check out all the emails that they're going to receive. And so you can see here all the forms that are required have just now popped up. I'm just going to go ahead and click on the FPPC 700 one just because that is the form we're going to be demoing today. And as you can see, it says you must complete the form FPPC 700 as part of the onboarding process. Let's go ahead and click here to fill and sign the form. All right. So this may look a little familiar here. This is actually the Form 700. So as you can see, we're in the Form 700 here, and basically it's going to start off with a question asking how we would like to complete the Form 700. Like Jamie was saying, if you fill this form out before, you'll know exactly which schedules you would like to complete, so you can manually select them. But say this is your first government job, you've never filled a form FPPC 700 before, then sometimes you would probably want some help determining which schedules you'd like to complete. So after clicking that we want some help, you can see the questions populate, and these questions will basically start dynamically building out our form for us, creating a custom experience. No matter which employee is filling the form, it'll be custom to you and custom tailored to you. So I'm just going to go ahead and start answering things here really quick. And you'll notice at the top of my screen here where the tabs are, the schedules will start appearing based off of which forms, which questions I'm answering yes or no. And so we basically have Schedule A1 and Schedule C showing now. You see on the main page, this is basically all of the main information that was auto-filled from our onboarding workflow. And then if we get to our next page here, you'll see we have our schedules that we can begin filling. One cool thing about this is that we do have our attachment fields from within the form. So say you did need to change certain things and it required a document to prove it. You can upload those documents or pictures and things like that, and they would show up on our attachments side here on the right hand side for everyone to view or download. As we get to Schedule 1, you'll see that Contextual Help box that pops up when I hover over it. So basically throughout the form, anytime you are confused or lost on a question that doesn't have too much instruction, if you hover over it, it's generally going to have instructions directly from the actual form itself just to help you get that signed and get that figured out. So I'm just going to go ahead and go through here and and check a couple things just to make sure. And then at the very end here, we have a question asking if we would want additional information such as names and addresses redacted. And that's just because the FPPC 700, depending on your department, could possibly become public record. So if it does become public record, then they would of course put the redacted copy as public record and keep your other things private. But you have the capability of making that decision yourself and also getting both of those copies. And so we're just going to go ahead and say yes and submit. And it's just going to take a second just because all of the information that was filled on this form so far is going to be populated to the original copy of the FPPC 700, which again is 23 pages. And so just give it a second here to load and you'll see that our document is now here for us to sign. It is the original document that everyone's comfortable with seeing, and all of the data will be populated here. And so it can be kind of confusing on where you're supposed to sign on these forms. So there is a button here for the next required field, just skips you straight to the bottom where you need to sign. You just have to click here, and I'm just going to sign as the employee just because that is who is supposed to be signing right now. Go ahead and apply that. All right, if I scroll down and click to sign, we are now complete. So we now have the option of downloading a copy, but now our FPPC officer will be sent our version of the FPPC 700, and they will decide whether they want to approve it or not. And so now I am in the FPPC officer, or say they're an HR specialist, I'm in their email here, and you can see it says Joe Smith has completed the form. If we click on it, it says they can review the signed document. If it's ready to be sent, we can submit by clicking here. If it's not properly completed, we can click here to note some changes. So I'm just going to click here to note some changes so that we can show that everything doesn't always work out perfectly, and sometimes there are some things that need to be reviewed and fixed, and it is possible through our system here. So you'll see all the previous information that was filled by the applicant or the new employee. As we go through, we can review it and submit it. You know, say they checked the wrong box on something. We can let them know in this comment section at the very end for reviewing and submitting. So it says, is the form complete and ready to be sent to the FPPC officer? We can say no and add, we need to fix a checkbox because, it was checked incorrectly. I'm just using this as an example. So we can set that so that the employee will know. Also on the right hand side here, you'll see a little audit trail with a quick overview of the entire form. That way, if an HR specialist is reviewing this, they don't have to actually click through every single screen. They can get a quick overview and get to what they need to get to. You also see the attachments of the two documents that were going to be sent out, the one with the redactions and the original. And so we're going to go ahead and submit this here. All right, so now that it is going to be sent back to the employee, letting them know that they're going to have to fix some things. So we're going to go ahead and get back into our employee's email here. And you'll see at the top of our list, the FPPC 700 has some corrections that need to be made, and the corrections that need to be made are listed below. And it actually says fix a checkbox, just like I typed into the form earlier. So that's actually one thing that's really cool about these notifications, is that they're fully customizable. You can actually add in fields from within the form. Say you wanted someone's name to be inside the email. You can even add in attachments, and also you can do approvals and denials from the notification also. So we're going to go ahead and click here to edit, and you can see now the form takes us back to where we were filling before, and it still has the auto-populated information. So they can go ahead and make some changes. Say they needed to make a change on the checkbox for which one they changed. We're going to go ahead and get back to our review and submit. What also is really cool is we added in an instruction page just in case the contextual help wasn't enough and you still wanted to read. We just kind of gave you a quick overview with the instructions there. But we'll go ahead and get back to our review and submit this. And since we made some changes to the form, the previous form that we signed is no longer valid. And so we're going to have to re-sign the document. So just give it a second here to auto-populate our new information since we just reviewed it and fixed it. And then we can scroll down to sign. Alright, so we'll just go ahead and sign one more time as the employee. I did spell that wrong, but it's okay. We'll just keep going with it, and then we'll click to sign. Alright, so again, we can download that copy, and then our FPPC officer or HR reviewer will be reviewing that and doing the same thing basically as far as if it's correct or not, and send it off or not. And so we'll go ahead and get back to our dashboard here, and we'll go ahead and show you the 686, the Employee Action Report. And Now this one is actually very significant. It's a very popular form just because of how many functions there are for it. But it also can be very confusing just because of those functions. So a lot of times, we've spoken with a lot of HR representatives, and they've said that they have trouble with this form because there's 5 functions and there's a whole bunch of fields on the form to fill. Sometimes people fill incorrect parts of the form when they actually haven't selected that within the options as far as why they're filling the form. So that causes some issues, and they would have to go back to the employee and let them know, hey, did you want to do a name change and a withholding change, or do you just want to do a name change since you only checked name change? And so to kind of get rid of the human error aspect of it, and to make sure that you're only seeing what you're supposed to see on the form and not confusing you, we basically made it built out the form so that based off of your selections, that's what you're going to see, and you're only going to see what you're supposed to. And so it makes it a lot more easier. You still have that contextual help if you're confused while you're going throughout the form, and it's just overall a very much easier experience while you're filling these things. And so we'll scroll down and submit this here. And so we're just going to do a withholding allowance change and a name change and submit. And just like that, the form is sent off to be reviewed by an HR specialist. And so we'll go ahead and check our email here, and you'll see an employee action request has been sent in. So as the reviewer, you can see that Jane Smith has completed an employee action request, and if we click here to review it, we can go over the form, and then we can, of course, see if there's anything that was filled incorrectly and things like that, send it back to them if we need to. We also have our quick overview here to the right again, and basically just go ahead and enter in some information and submit again. And then this basically will trigger the signature. So the employee will be emailed saying that the reviewer has reviewed it, and that the employee will now be required to sign. And you can see here, we have sent them the form that they need to review and sign. We'll go ahead and click here to review and sign. And it takes us back to our ThinkSmart page where we can click our next required field and sign the form. And as you can see here, this form is pretty detailed, and it is very easy to get distracted and accidentally fill in some fields that aren't required for you. So we'll go ahead and apply that. And we'll go ahead and scroll down, click the sign, and we're good to go on that. So the last thing we're kind of going to go over is our dashboard and our metrics within the program here. And so the dashboard is fully customizable depending on your role. So say you're an HR specialist and you need to be able to view all of the forms from all of the employees, you can set that to do so. And then also if you're just an employee and you want that employee to only see what they're supposed to see, like their forms, you can do so also. And these actual filters are customizable, so you can filter choose which filters you would like. So it makes it very easy to navigate through your dashboard. We also have cool features like a view history for the forms. So basically you can go through the full audit trail. Say you had an employee that came up to you and said, I did not receive that email for me needing to make some changes. You can basically go back into the audit trail, note that it says fix a checkbox, and that the employee actually did receive that. And so kind of gives you that coverage, for checking on yourself, to make sure that you're covered. And then you'll also be able to download the redacted copy. You can download the actual signed FPPC 700 if you needed to. Maybe you wanted to file it, the paper copy in your own files, you can do so. So next we'll go ahead and get back into our analytics and metrics. This is going to be really helpful for tracking, especially with like compliance and things like that. So it's a very easy way of managing things. You can see how many are out for signature, how many have been signed, how many are still in the process. You can see the agreement statuses, so where in the agreement they are. And then you can actually click on the sections of the graph and actually see the recipients on who is actually the person that you need to contact, as far as if it's their manager or the employee themselves, so that you can manage compliance and make sure things get done on time in a timely manner. All right. And so that's basically our metrics here. That's basically going to be our demo for the program, just a high level. And what's really cool is a lot of our forms are actually going to be very similar. I'm just going to be trading it back to Jamie now so we can finish this off here.
So this is Jamie Mangrum again. I just wanted to say thank you for joining us today and learning more about HR as a service. I've put both JJ's and my contact information on the screen here. Feel free to reach out to us. We'd be happy to give you more information about HR as a service and other products that we sell. things like permits and licensing as a service, and so on. So again, thank you very, very much for participating today. We really appreciate it.